Welcome back to episode 4 of MetaTrainer. Today we're going to get into Candies, Stardust, the best way to spend those, and just how important IVs are. So something I just wanted to make clear is that I'm going to spend these first couple episodes kind of going over the base information of the game. While I'm not going into what a Pokestop is or what a gym is and how to attack it, I think that's all pretty much common knowledge. The basics that I'll be covering are going to be more focused around how all of these systems work together and how you kind of want to conserve different resources, what you want to spend when and on what. So let's talk about Candies. The main thing about Candies is that you don't have any control over which ones that you have access to. They kind of just show up over time throughout the game. It's up to you to find out which ones you can spend a little more freely and which ones you should save until you really find a great candidate for making a good Pokemon. While you don't have control over which candies you get, you do have control over how you spend them. And that's what I want to focus on a little bit. It's okay to spend the candies that you get from Pokemon that are a little more common for your area just to power them up and to get a little bit of extra evolution experience. A good example of this would be Staryu for me. As I showed you in the last episode, I have a lot of Staryus that just kind of pile up, and I had that one that was almost 600 CP. That's going to make a great candidate for an evolution, even if the IVs aren't that great. So an example of something that you wouldn't want to spend candies on right away would be maybe this Snorlax that I have. So my Snorlax is 1519, and I have 3 candies, which is just 1 power-up. To me, I'd rather just save the 1 candy, and honestly, I'll probably wind up transferring this 1 Snorlax just so I can power up one that I find in the wild that's a little bit stronger. There's not a whole ton to say about candies, though. It's really just about what you find commonly and what's less common for you, and knowing how to save the things that are harder for you to find. There's really no set number of candies that you should be saving for any one Pokemon for the future. Just pay attention. If something's common, you can spend it freely to get some evolves, maybe do a couple power-ups. If it's something you've only seen maybe 20 candies for in the entire time that you've played this game, it's probably something you want to save and hang on until you get a really great candidate with either the right moveset or just really high base starting CP to evolve into something stronger or to power up. If you're in a situation where you have a first stage evolved Pokemon that'll be a good candidate for an attacker, I would go ahead and evolve it and power it up now, especially if you're under level 23 or 24, because it's more important for you to have that good attacker now than for you to save those resources for something that you'll have later. Let's talk about Stardust. I know a lot of people think that you should just save every bit of Stardust that you get until you finally get a candidate for a good power-up Pokemon, but that's not necessarily the case. It's okay to spend a little bit of Stardust early. By the time you're hitting level 25, 26, and up, you're going to get so much Stardust per level that it's not a big deal to go ahead and spend some to bring a Pokemon up from lower levels. By the time that you're level 25 or 26, you're going to be getting at least 100,000 Stardust per level. So at that point, it's kind of okay for you to power up the few Pokemon that you already have at the top of your tier list, because the amount that you're getting per level is going to far surpass the amount that you have to spend to keep those Pokemon maxed out. To take a Pokemon from level 1 to level 40 takes over 250,000 Stardust. But after you're level 30, by the time you're level 40, you should have seen millions and millions of Stardust drop. Really the main thing to focus on is that after level 25, you're just not going to have to worry about Stardust. Levels are going to come to you so slowly that the amount of Stardust that you get per level is just going to far outrank what you'd be spending. So really just in the end, use your Stardust to power up your good attackers and defenders. That's what it's there for, and it's okay to use it ahead of time. You're going to see stronger Pokemon as you continue to level up, but use it while you have it. Now, I will say it's probably not a terrible idea to keep somewhere between 80 and 120,000 Stardust just as a backup once you start hitting those higher levels, because eventually then you will catch a Pokemon that's got perfect IVs, perfect moveset, and you need to power it up from the bottom. So maybe once you hit 25, save about 100,000, but up until then, just use it as you need it. Use it to get better attackers and to get more gym coins per day. I guess the big point for these two resources is that you don't have a lot of control over how quickly you get them. So don't worry too much about saving your Stardust before level 20. You should be using that to get a strong attacker. You want to get something from 1600 to 1900 as soon as possible. And so I'm just going to touch lightly on IVs here because I think there's a lot of good information out there already, but I just want to tell you about the relative difference that having perfect IVs versus having 0 IVs is going to have on your Pokemon. For a Pokemon with high base stats like Vaporeon, which is just over 600, you're looking at about a 7% difference. If you stick to just using the appraisal system and use that one-word trick that I had in one of my earlier episodes, it's really easy just to find good combat Pokemon that are, near the top range for IVs, and that's really all you need to worry about. When we're looking at the difference between a Pokemon that is a wonder and something that is above average, it's only about a 2 to 3% difference in terms of damage and defense ability. That's why I think it's okay in the end if you have something that's maybe 60% a little bit higher to go ahead and evolve it and use it as an attacker. Now, my execute, you might have noticed I didn't wind up evolving in my last episode. I really want to wait for the perfect IV to execute, and I want to get a lot of candies to max it out. Execute dropped down on the tier list for attacking and defending, so it's not as much of a priority as it was when I first caught that execute. I probably should have done it right away, but the fact that I waited and he got nerfed a little bit means that I think I'm going to save those candies to get a perfect IV execute, or to just try to find an executor in the wild, I mean, as rare as that would be, with the perfect moveset already, and then just power it up from whatever CP it's at. So yeah, overall, don't worry about IVs too much. They will have an impact on your Pokemon, but the difference between 80 to 100% and 60 to 80% isn't all that great. So it's okay if you're just maybe one tier down from the top. I mean, I would always stick to finding the best IVs that you can and sticking to those if you're patient enough. But if you need an attacker and you know that something's going to replace your best attacker or defender when you evolve it, go ahead and do it now. It's better to start taking gems and to start getting free coins and the experience from doing that than for you to save a little bit of Stardust or Candies. Again, the difference between 100% and 0 is only about a 7% difference in damage and defense. Some people argue that that 7% winds up multiplying because if I have perfect attack and you have perfectly terrible defense and health, those numbers kind of stack on each other, but I just don't think it quite adds up to be that much. I think the most you're ever going to see is maybe a 10-12% difference in attacking and defending. Your ability to take gems and get coins out of gems is one of the easiest ways to not spend money in this game. It's really just not necessary. If you go out and capture a couple gems every couple days, you should be able to keep up with buying enough lucky eggs to get to level 30 at a competitive rate. I think the main focus that you should have at this point is experience. Until most of us are level 30, that's just where all of our energy should be going. Now, I think there's seriously something to be said for someone that just wants to conserve all of their resources until the very end. Maybe you're only evolving like Pidgeweedle, Caterpie, and saving all of your other candy. That's not a horrible idea, because you have to remember that patches are going to change how strong different Pokemon are. Hopefully Alakazam and Gengar get a buff at some point. For some reason, they're terrible, even though they used to be pretty good in the old games. It's really just about how patient you can be if you can save enough of your resources to use them when they'll give you a slightly better benefit versus pulling the trigger now. And that decision's kind of up to you, because I don't know how often you go out, how many days a week you spend playing the game. So for you, if you get a 1600 attacker, it might just be worth it to dump all of your Stardust and Candies into that to get something 1800, 1900 in that range to help you take more gems. All right, so next time we're going to start focusing on combat. This was most of the base information that you need to just understand the leveling mechanics of the game and kind of the relative strength of your Pokemon. But we're going to start getting into movesets and how there's just a few things that you have to pay attention to be able to be really efficient in taking those gems out and getting a lot of free Pokecoins.